Hello, hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. My name is Elise, the glamorous granny on TikTok. How y'all doing out there this morning? Everything happens for a reason. I'm gonna review over what we did last week. Smooth sailing over troubled seas. Reason 3, to show you that you can let go of fear. I'm going to review the fact that the journey of life takes places over troubled seas. Life is full of things that can scare the crap out of us. Some fears are perfectly reasonable, but some are terribly damaging. They lock us in their grip, preventing us from embracing an important part of life. Then we go through some painful experience and realize that the reason we went through it was to give us a way to live without fear. Excuse me. Section 2, a life without fear. When we discover the meaning of the events in our lives, it's always to complete our growth. Many of us need to grow in the direction of living without crippling fear. I'm going to change my hat. Hold on. Let me see which one I got. I got another hat here. I'll put on my brim so I can see y'all. Crippling fear. Isn't that the point of all education? Not just cosmic kindergarten. You learn to read. You're not afraid to read anything that's presented to you, no matter how difficult. You learn to write, so you're not afraid of any writing task that comes your way. And the more you learn, the more you learn how to learn, so that when you're faced with having to master some new piece of knowledge, that too doesn't scare you. Now, in a life without fear, there was questions last week, okay? Is it hard for you to trust yourself to deal with new situations? Think about a couple of things you've done in your life that you regret. Was the main reason you did those things because you were acting out of fear? When you make a decision, is fear an important factor that you weigh in the balance? Would you say that your life is filled with things you're scared of? Remember, if you answer yes to 3 or more of these questions, then the reason you went through what you did was to give you something that would make it possible to stop being afraid of what? Afraid of anything. Section 3, letting go. Gotta let it go. Now you might be thinking, okay, I get it so far, but how did I get what I needed so I can let go of fear? Realize that the catastrophe has already happened, yet you survived. I survived 5 car accidents, okay? None of them was my fault. None of them. Although you may not have realized it at first, the experience of facing your catastrophe eventually forces you to see that your fear is irrelevant. You've been given a gift designed to help transport you outside of the realm of fear. Remember to smile today, guys. It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes you just look and you can see it easy. Let me tell you that. Okay. Now, the next one, section 4. Does anyone have any fortune cookies? Do we believe in fortune cookies? I don't know. Some people do. We're talking about this guy named Steve. Okay. Let's review something about Steve. It isn't that what makes you scared? So you're saying that the reason I wasted my life so far anyway was to see that I didn't have to be afraid of wasting my life? Isn't that what makes us scared of anything? I see you were scared. Now it happened. Now you see that you can cope. I mean, I see that standing here, you don't look like a basket case. You're not alone in your situation. Lots of people can't move forward in life until the thing they're most afraid of happens to them and liberates them from their fear. All righty, we're going into, let me get a pen right quick because I know I have one. I don't want to write on that. Give me a minute. I'm going to get a pencil instead. I usually have a pen. Sorry, guys. I'm leaning forward. We're going to section 5. I'm only reading section 5 and section 6 this week, guys. Moving forward with courage. I'm going to speak on something that was spoken to me by Prophetess Tanya, Prophetess Nicholas. Okay. The kingdom of courage. God can give you courage in the midst of everything. And we're talking about courage and confidence in yourself. Last time we talked about self-acceptance. It's like, take me as I am, or have nothing at all. Accept yourself the way you are, unless you want to change for health reasons. Other than that, acceptance. Moving forward with courage. Steve had figured out how the cosmic kindergarten worked. We go through something tough, and then we see what a gift it was because it made our fears irrelevant. But you can't stop there. The bigger the event, the bigger the gift. The bigger the gift, the more of a difference it has to make. I know you still feel the same, but because of what happened to you, you have already conquered your fear in a way. You've been given exactly what you need to conquer your fear. You have to trust that. Even though you may still feel the same old fears, you have to live as if those fears were now dead and gone. Okay? Wow. So what would you do if you really felt no fear? This question is the key to figuring out how to use what you've learned. There are some way fear kept you out of life. Seeing that you don't have to be afraid anymore gets you back into life. Whatever you do, it has to be something you couldn't allow yourself to do when you were afraid. Maybe you need to add something to your life. My biggest fear is riding on a motorcycle. I think I'm going to just go ahead and just get on it. I mean, Mr. Joe, Stacy does fishing. I'm not into fishing. So, yeah, Harley Davidson is a big one. Or something, let something go from your life or do what you've been doing, but in a different way. When you make some change in your life because you believe you've been given the gift of letting go of fear, you'll really understand the meaning of what you went through. Okay? Moving forward with courage. We're going to do section 6. And the opposite of fear is, that's a question. Once you see the reason something happened was so you could let go of fear, fear becomes different in your life. You realize it's more of a habit than a truth about the world, but it's a sticky habit. So how do you get out of the fear habit once you realize you no longer need it? What you need is a better story about yourself. Your old story had to do with how afraid you were. Your new story will have to do with how resilient you are. One woman I interviewed was caught in college dorm fire in the middle of the night. It was terrifying. She managed to wake up her friends and get all of them out. However, she suffered serious smoke inhalation in the process. Suppose this had happened to you. Look at look at from the point of view of an old fear habit. This event shows how things can go wrong and you can get hurt. The light goes on when you see how completely different image of yourself in the same experience. Something bad happened and you survived. I have a friend, he had surgery. In the midst of it, he survived. I have a friend that had 7 strokes. She survived. I have my daughter that had was hit by 2 cars. She survived. I was hit by a car. I survived. My car accidents, I survived. More, you came through like a champ. Yeah. Although it was very hard at that time. Now it's a story of your resilience. When people see that the meaning of what happened to them is that they are no longer have to be afraid, they switch from seeing themselves as scared cats to seeing themselves as resilient, less like victims, more like heroes. God got me here for a reason. Look back on some time in your life when you felt a lot of fear. Now tell yourself the story of what you went through, but this time make it a story about your resilience. It's important to see that resilience doesn't stop with survival. It can make a person farther than he or she ever dreamed possible. At 28, Artie was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. He came to me terrified of what the future held and hungered to know why this had happened to him. He answered to the diagnostic questions on page 92 and 93. Showed clearly that the reason this happened was to help him let go of fear, which had been an issue in his life long before he got sick. I asked, what would you do if you weren't afraid of the future? Action speaks louder than words. He'd never been particularly active before, but he started a program of running. At first, this was primarily to maintain his muscle tone, but soon he decided that there was more here for him than this. He began running longer distance more often and faster. Eventually, started running in 10Ks and marathons. He took a survival reaction to the whole other level. He was inspired to add new dimension to his life. His sense of himself, a physical being, actually grew in spite of his disease. He no longer had to be afraid, not only because he survived, but because he found a way to thrive more than he'd ever imagined. Of course, we all die in the end. So are you going to wait until you're very old and as you slip through the portals of death, see that death itself is nothing to dread, and then realize what a waste of lifetime of fear was? You don't need to. You don't need to. For you, the catastrophe has already happened. We all get to the point where we see the fear does nothing more than add an unnecessary element of pain in the process of living. We understand that terrorists win if we live with the fear they're trying to stir up. Well, we become terrorists to ourselves when we allow ourselves to be controlled by our own fear. That's section 6. I'm going to sum this up to say, we understand that terrorists win if we live in fear they're trying to stir up. Meaning, we understand that when you go to work, there's people stirring up stuff all the time. The world is stirring up things. But We become terrorists of ourselves just as well as letting other people tell it, you can't do this, you ain't that, you don't look like the da 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 da, in the fear of acceptance. We become terrorists to ourselves when we allow ourselves to be controlled by our own fears. And the opposite of fear is what? Facing it. Let go of your fears. Face your fears. Moving forward with courage and confidence in the kingdom that God created for us to just let go. And remember to smile today. Study with excitement. Meditate with intentions. Inspire others. Laugh hysterically. And remember to elevate yourself to the highest potential out there. We will resume next Thursday on the topic, but it isn't fear your friend. But isn't fear your friend? We talked about, and the opposite of fear is what? Moving forward with change. And we reviewed, does anyone have any fortune cookies? Also, letting go. Remember, a life without fear. Ask yourself this question. Is it hard for you to trust yourself to deal with new situations? Think about a couple of things you've done in your life that you regret. Was the main reason you did those things because you were acting out of fear? When you make a decision, is fear important? Factor that you weigh in the balance. Would you say that your life is filled with things you're scared of? Everything happens for a reason. Peace. Remember to smile today.